Hey guys, it's Makinsu. It's finally time for the detailed BLOODWEB guide. After this video, you're gonna know exactly how the BLOODWEB works, how the entity works, and you're gonna be able to predict where the entity goes, what the entity does, and you're even gonna be able to manipulate it to save yourself a ton of blood points by having the entity take as much as possible. Let's get into it. Before we get into the level up, we have to take a look at the structure of the BLOODWEB. The BLOODWEB is made up of 3 circles: the outer circle, the middle circle, and the inner circle. So we have 3 circles in general. The entity is always going to start on the first circle, the outer circle, or whatever circle is the farthest on the outside. It will always work from the outside to the inside, and that's also the way it progresses. It starts on the outside, it makes its way onto the inside. Okay, so now we want to level up the playthrough a bit, and to take a basic right away, the entity is not gonna appear in the first 9 BLOODWEBs, so we can just rush through this with all crutches. So here we are at level 10. This is the first ever BLOODWEB that the entity is going to spawn, and it will always spawn at the outer circle, so it's gonna spawn either on this one or here. Since we want to go through this as cheap as possible, we want the entity to spawn here, so we're gonna take this option away. And then just go through the cheap options, entity will spawn, and take the 2 most expensive ones on the outside. In level 11, the entity is not gonna spawn, we can just rush through this. Okay, the next few levels are gonna be kinda interesting, because the entity is not follow the regular spawn timing. And will always take the last item on the BLOODWEB. So we're gonna try to get through this as cheap as possible. And now, BLOODWEB 14, the BLOODWEB is big enough that the entity works a little bit differently. We want this one to be taken by the entity. We're gonna take these 3, and now watch out. Take a 4th one, nothing happens, and on the 5th purchase, the entity is gonna spawn. It also indicates us that of course it's gonna start here, and we'll just go through it. BLOODWEB 15, also an interesting one. We're gonna take the cheapest route. 4 and 5, now it's gonna spawn. It indicates it starts here. We are fine with that. Take. Now we're gonna go for the first manipulation of the BLOODWEB, because we don't really want this one taken. We're gonna take it and make it jump. Our goal is to have the entity take the bread with oak. And since there's only 2 ones left right now, we take this, and entity saves us some money. BLOODWEB 16 is always a really short one. But this one is really important, because now the entity works the way it works for the entire rest of the level up. After we take only 4 items in the BLOODWEB, the entity is gonna spawn and work its way from here. Just showcase this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. It spawns down here, and now we just go through with this. So with the basics out of the way, we're gonna take a look at a bigger BLOODWEB. Here we have my Yui at level 40, and it's basically as big as it gets in terms of the BLOODWEB, so we do have to think. Because we want to get as cheap through this as possible, so we're gonna manipulate the BLOODWEB to save some points. Because let's say the BLOODWEB spawns on here, it will always follow the line. It's gonna come here, then it's gonna come here, and if it takes this item here, it will cut off these 3. This is due to this item being the only connection that I have to these items up here. So our goal is to make the entity take this one, or other option to take this one. Because if it spawns here and comes up here, then it's also going to take these ones away. So this is our goal, but ideally we want these ones to be taken. So let's go through with it. Take 3, before. Now it spawns. We have the luck that it does indeed spawn here, so we will make it run through here. After that, we're gonna make a decision where we want it to go down. It can either take these ones and take both of them away, or it can go down and take both of them away. Since we want to go through this as cheap as we can, we want the BLOODWEB to go here, and basically we want the entity to take these for us. We're gonna shut its way off and take these. Also, I do not want this item because it's also quite expensive, so in the next step we're gonna make the entities jump here, but let's go one at a time. Entity takes these, next step will be to go down there. Now the entity needs to jump because it cannot go any further, so this is the first time the entity really has to jump around. It will of course jump to the outer circle. On outer circle we have either the map or this one up here, the syringe. We do not want the syringe, so we technically have to take the map. This ensures that the entity will take the syringe, and we go with the last item down here. Okay, so this is another very interesting BLOODWEB, because if we manipulate the entity correctly, it's going to take the entire bottom half of the BLOODWEB. So how are we going to achieve this? We want the entity to spawn anywhere on this route. So the only options we have if the entity really wants to mess with us are if the entity starts to spawn up here. Let's hope this does not happen. It does not happen, we are lucky. The entity spawns down here, it's gonna come up here, and we will just have a look at what happens. We blocked off this way, so it is going to go here and continue the way for us. Take this, we take this, and as I said, the entity took more than half of the BLOODWEB for its own. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is, what if you still have some perks left to learn? Once you hit level 15 on a character that still needs to learn some perks, you will have 2 different perks to choose from, and that's when the entity really starts to alter in the way it spawns. Once we take the first perk, immediately the entity is gonna spawn. It's not gonna spawn with the little point, but it will immediately take away the other perk. That is always going to happen. So the entity is gonna be much faster, and as I said, it will always spawn right from the perk. So now we are on a bit of a higher level with our Nicholas, and yet again we do have 2 perks to choose from. Of course, you always want to make sure to take a perk that will be beneficial for you and will manipulate the BLOODWEB in a good way. If I wanted to go for this perk, I mean, it's fine if I really want the perk, but if I just want to go for the points, then I definitely want to take the perk down here so that the entity shuts off this route. I'm gonna take this, entity is gonna spawn and take all of these away. Okay, so there's another interesting thing happening. Once you hit level 40 in the BLOODWEB and you still have perks, you will have 3 perks to choose from. I'm at level 41, so it's a better example for you guys to show you what I mean. The thing is, the second perk that the entity is gonna take is based on luck. So we will just have to look a bit and analyze what perk we need to pick. You can either pick Dark Sense, then it is guaranteed for the entity to shut off this route because they are both connected on the same thing. If we take one of those, it could either take this one, like the other one down here, this would be bad for our BLOODWEB economy, or it's gonna take this one here, and that's also not really useful for us. So we definitely want to take the perk up here, make the entity spawn down there, and take everything. Okay guys, we've made it to the end of the video, and by now you know everything there is to know about the BLOODWEB, so you don't have to spend any more BP than necessary on a single web anymore. And if you have any more tips on how the BLOODWEB works, feel free to tell me right below in the comments.